Hey everyone. I am starting a new series that is going to be focused on looking at orbitally progressed planets. And we're going to be choosing individuals looking at three different experiences at different stages of their life so that we can see how orbital progressions accurately track. And within this, I should make a note since this is the first video. I know that this is a topic that astrologers can be kind of charged around. But after years of doing research and looking at how planets, houses, signs apply to each other, no, planet signs, houses are not the same thing. However, they do actually form what we could call a zone. That's what they're called in medical astrology. So they do have an affiliation with each other, right? So you'll hear that in this, you know, chart delineation. Also, these are made for intermediate astrologers. So we're not going to go into aspects and what they mean and things like that. We're just simply going to be looking at basically here is an aspect, right? So that we can keep these videos as short as possible because there will be a lot of them in this series. And then hopefully by the end of the series, you'll be able to see very clearly that these calculations for orbital progressions actually do provide a lot of information. So on that note, here we go. We're starting with Steven Spielberg. And this first chart that we're looking at was for when Jaws was released. So, right out the bat, we have Jaws. We know that it's a psychological thriller slash horror film about a shark in the ocean. And so, if we're looking at this OP, which I will call these planets OP for orbital progressed, so if we look at this OP Mercury at 5 degrees in his 10th house, which is Aries, then we see that that is opposing his natal Neptune and transit Pluto. So that checks out and makes sense. This also was the movie that launched him into fame. And I'll say that the year before, when they started filming Jaws, this OP Mercury was actually exactly conjunct his MC at 0 degrees, 10th house Aries. Let's see what else. So this movie actually ended up going really over budget to the tune of a few million, I believe. And when we're looking at this OP Venus, we can see that it is conjunct his natal Mars. And it's actually in a T square with this transiting Pluto and OP Mercury as well. And it's also this OP Venus at 5 degrees Capricorn is in conjunct the Saturn Pluto combination he's got in his second house. But despite going millions over, this actually was the first movie to gross over $100 million. So basically, this was the first blockbuster. And we can look at up to this OP Mercury again in his 10th. And it's trining this Saturn Pluto in his natal chart second house. But it's actually a grand trine, we would say, because his OP moon over here at 2 degrees is involved as well. Also, in financial astrology, even though this Venus is square this Pluto, this actually can be an aspect that does create a lot of money. However, it speaks to that process not being an easy one, which he did say that shooting on the open water actually proved to be 5 times harder shooting than shooting on the lot. He said 80% of the time the shark didn't work and it was hard to control. And actually, the boat, the orca that they're on in the movie, sank not once but twice during filming, and they almost lost the video equipment. And so, again, we could, well, actually, you know what? We could say that here is that OP Mars, right? Him trying to accomplish this movie, right? Mars, the ruler of his 10th house. And it was actually being opposed by Saturn as they were filming. And it is, this OP Mars is actually in a square to his natal Neptune. And it's also involved in a yod with Uranus in his 12th house and Pluto in his second house, we could say Saturn, but that's much more wide. So there were definitely things to overcome, right? And he also said that he thought this was going to be the end of his career because things were going so horribly. And, he also noted that they went 100 days over in their filming schedule. So the timing was really off. And he was actually told by somebody on the set that he was wasting so much time and money that he would never work again. And so, when we look at something like Venus, OP Venus in the 7th house, right, of Capricorn, so his business relationship, that was in conjunct this natal Saturn in the second, right, being told something that actually translates to creating a lot of anxiety for him. And in fact, so he said that following the difficult shoot, he actually suffered from PTSD because he had severe anxiety that went with, trouble breathing, shaking, nightmares, things like that. And of course, if we, look up here and we go back to this OP Mercury, the ruler of the 12th, where we see dreams, right, in Aries, Mars, bad dreams. This was also, as the movie was being filmed, this Mercury was being squared by Saturn in the first. And let's see if there was anything else. We would have actually that OP Mars is semi-square his moon in the 6th house as well. So let's move on to the second chart. The second chart is for a kidney surgery that he had. So basically what is happening here is he goes in for a regular checkup and receives surprising news that there is an irregularity in one kidney and it is not functioning properly. So let's keep in mind that in medical astrology, Jupiter and Venus are the indicators for the kidneys. So we would have, if we come over here and we look at OP Mercury in his first house, that is making or we should say Uranus, transiting Uranus is making an inconjunct to that OP Mercury. And it's also, we have OP Venus with that transit Uranus. So there we would have surprising information, right, about the kidneys. And also, we could see, let's see there, I feel like there was something else. Oh, we could notice that this OP Venus at 16 degrees, as well as his progressed sun at 19 degrees, these are squaring his natal Jupiter-Venus combination in the sign of Scorpio, right? So a sign where we would see surgeries. So that's going on as well. And he is, in fact, told that surgery is going to be required, right? Let me go back and point out another thing that is going on. In Canva, I couldn't find the glyph. For some reason, it wasn't pulling up Hygeia, so I just went with a capital H. But we're looking at orbitally progressed Hygeia here, an asteroid indicating health and well-being at 27 degrees in Aries. Well, that is actually in an exact square with his ascendant. And it is also in a square. So a T-square is being formed with the OP Mars at 28 degrees in Capricorn. So we have that as an indicator as well of what's going on. And let's see, what else do we have? We also have orbital progressed moon at 27 degrees in Jupiter's house, right? And that is being squared by transiting Mars as well, right? And Mars happens to be in Pisces, which of course is hospitals. Mars is surgery. And there is also an inconjunct between this moon at 27 degrees in the sixth house and his ascendant at 27 degrees in Cancer, his first house, right? All right, so let's move on to his third chart. And this one actually is kind of fun and interesting because it hasn't happened yet. So we're looking at a future scenario, which is the release of Disclosure Day. And that is set to be released on June 12th in 2026. And of course, with this one, we have a movie disclosing or playing out a scenario of what would happen if the leaders of the world confirmed that we are, in fact, not alone. Or since the movie's not out, we can't say exactly what happens in the movie, but we can assume that there is going to be a lot of people coming unglued in this movie, right? Overcoming fears, overcoming taboo topic, right? And so if we're looking at orbital progressed Mercury at this time in his life is now in Scorpio, his fifth house, right? The sign of, or the house of theatrical creation, right? And it's the ruler of his 12th house, his third house. So we're talking about media. And that is going to, actually, it's in a T-square with transit Pluto in his 8th house, which is Aquarius, right? So on point for the topic. And also in a T-square with his Saturn and Pluto combination in his 2nd house. So it, should be interesting to see what plays out under this aspect. what sort of challenges were, having to be overcome. And also, a side note, this can actually be a challenging experience in, his more personal life with children or family. And so hoping everything is well with him in on that front at this time. Uh, if I had to guess, I would say that this is actually going to be another big hit for him. And why am I saying that? So if we look at OP Venus in his chart, it is at 27 degrees, and that is conjunct his natal Vesta in the sign of Pisces. And that is in a grand trine at the time this movie is launched. So it's in a grand trine with his ascendant at 27 degrees in Cancer. And that is also paired with transiting Jupiter and Venus at the time. So that's looking pretty strong. And then if we factor in the third leg of the trine, we would see that Jupiter is at 23 degrees in Scorpio, fifth house. So that finishes out that grand trine. What else do we have? We also have Mars, the ruler of his 10th house, here in the 8th, Aquarius. And that is forming a sextile with Vesta and Saturn that are transiting his 10th. And also, this OP Mars is opposing Pluto, right? So there's a trifecta combination there. That looks like it could be factoring in on that as well. And then we could also look at his orbitally progressed part of fortune, which will be exactly conjunct his natal Mercury. And it will be in a grand trine with his Saturn-Pluto combo here in the 7th, and with the transit Saturn, Vesta, Neptune combination here in the 10th as well. All right, so that's it for Steven Spielberg. And I hope you can see how these calculations actually really do factor in when we are delineating charts. And I've found incredibly important in making predictions. So anyway, there are many more videos to come, and I'll see you soon. Take care.